Dave Chappelle walked away from 50 million.
No, that's not even close to what happened to this dude.
Everybody wants to know, why'd you walk away from $50 million?
I wasn't walking away from the money.
Yeah.
I was walking away from the circumstances.
Not they offered him 50 million and he turned it down. Who gonna turn down 50 million?
They're trying to convince me I'm insane. They were trying to get me to take psychotic medication.
Now, I've had to turn down $50 million 4 times just to protect my integrity and that virgin hole I was telling you about. Right, because P. Diddy be wanting to party. And you gotta tell him no.
You gotta tell him no. You gotta tell him no.
You might win $100 in a poker game and be on the subway. You're gonna look over your shoulder. They just said in everything I had $50 million. That's like making me a marked man. When I see that they put every black man in the movies in a dress at some point in their career, I'll be connecting them down like, wow, all these brothers gotta wear a dress. That's happened to me.
Chappelle, another great comedian, said that, you know, in the industry, they tried to make him wear a dress.
What if I told you that everything you just heard about Dave Chappelle is a lie, and I can prove it?
Oh yeah, Diddy got a podcast.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Diddy Got a Podcast, and of course, I'm your host, Diddy, back up in this witch with another video. Listen, this video may seem super random to a lot of you all, but it's actually not random at all, because my last video, we talked about how people sell their souls, right? And whether we're willing to accept this or not, we're not living in the 20s and the 30s and the 40s anymore. A lot of us didn't live during that time. But my point is, we're in 2025. We're in a completely different time, and we are in the age of the internet. We're in the age of social media. We are 100% at the peak of the age of influencers and celebrities, right? Because these people are praised and worshiped by the masses, and whether you feel like a lot of adults that you know don't praise these people, which I know a lot of adults that do. Speaking of that, if you want the uncensored version of this video, please feel free to follow the Patreon, become a member of the Patreon. They definitely have the minds of our young people. Why is this important? Because part of the reason why I do what I do on this YouTube channel, and that's exposing the music industry, exposing celebrities, a lot of people may see this as a waste of time, but it's not. Because if the ultimate goal is to build a relationship with God, and we got people and forces down here, this is a spiritual fight. And if everything down here is happening to try to steer us away from God, celebrities are being used. So when we, like how we talked about Candace Owens, and as hard as that's going to be for a lot of people to accept, Candace Owens, even though we agree with a lot of things that Candace Owens talks about, I have reason to believe, as I talked about in my video, that she is controlled opposition, right? I believe Dave Chappelle is another one of those people, and it's important that we talk about that since we are most recently covering the whole sell your soul situation. So for those of you who don't know, or maybe just forgot some of the details, a quick summary. Dave Chappelle, of course, he used to have the Chappelle Show, and back in 2005, during the 3rd season, he actually left the show randomly and abruptly and just left for Africa. And then, of course, he would come back, make an appearance on the Oprah show, and then he would tell us that the reasons why he turned down a $50 million deal to shoot out to Africa. Now, a lot of people have been saying that Dave Chappelle actually left and went to Africa for years, and then the media started to call him a drug addict. He came back, cleared his name, said that he never did drugs, and that he actually wasn't gone for years, but that he was only in Africa, particularly Africa, for just a couple of weeks, just so he can clear his mind. But I have reason to believe, and I've been saying that this on this channel for a while, that I almost never believe Dave Chappelle. And the reason why I say almost is because you give credit where it's due. I believe some of the stuff he said was true. Like he said that he left because, you know, he didn't have some of the creative control that he wanted on the show. He was under a lot of stress, which that story is going to be corroborated by a person that actually worked with Chappelle that I'm going to show later in this video. And he felt a lot of discomfort in the new direction that the show was headed, which once again, that will be corroborated with somebody who worked with Dave Chappelle later in this video. But one of the biggest reasons, if not the biggest reason, that Dave Chappelle shared why he left the show, or basically the final straw that led to him leaving the show, is because they tried to force him to wear a dress. And as we talked about many times on this channel, Dave Chappelle talked about in that Oprah episode, he said when he takes a step back and look at Hollywood, he's a conspiracy theorist to an extent. And essentially he noticed that all these black actors and comedians at some point in their career had to put on a dress. And a lot of people praise Dave Chappelle for talking about this. A lot of people still praise him to this day. And they look at him now and they say, hey, he stood on integrity. He's made it back. And he's talking about all these politically correct things. He talks about transgenderism. He talks about the Israel-Gaza war. He's talking about the Diddy trial and making fun of Diddy. But what if I told you that, once again, I have reason to believe that Dave Chappelle is controlled opposition? And there are several red flags that point to this. One of the obvious reasons is because, so you mean to tell me Dave Chappelle is somehow so special, he's different from Michael Jackson, Prince, Marilyn Monroe, Tupac, Biggie, Aaron Carter, Kurt Cobain, Whitney Houston, Eazy-E, and the list goes on. How come Dave Chappelle can, quote unquote, expose Hollywood and the things and how they try to emasculate men in Hollywood, and he gets to keep his life? I'm not saying every celebrity that I just named was, quote unquote, exposing the industry, but some of them were. And a lot of people got their theories about why these celebrities are no longer here. What makes Dave Chappelle special? But not only that, but he came back from Africa, and who was the first person he spoke to? Oprah. We've covered Oprah on this show. All of the red flags around Oprah's career. Of course, there's always been a lot of conspiracy theories and nothing that people have actually been able to prove about Oprah. But we've had really good reasons to believe a lot of things that's not so good about Oprah over the years. You think to tell you expect me to believe that he comes back and speaks to Oprah of all people, and she sits there and plays dumb and pretend like she's never heard any of these things that happens in Hollywood. And then the dress narrative. He said that he noticed that all these people, all these black men in Hollywood, at some point in their career had to put on a dress. And that was something he wasn't willing to do. But as we've covered on this channel, at least twice, Dave Chappelle wore a dress. Twice.
Robin's gonna do the news, and we got some great guests coming in. Hey, what are you guys laughing at so much? I think I fired up too much. Jerks. All right, let's play a new video of Baba Boobie's Bonanza. Robin, you show the tape. What do you think of it?
Well, Howard,
Hey, Robin, what's the matter with you? You have a goal?
as a matter of fact, I do.
Really? Probably a chest goal. Hey, Robin, you take a temperature?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we just stick the thermometer.
And as you can see in that clip, he not only wore a dress, but he's up there with like the Wayans brothers, and I would put him up there with like Jamie Foxx, with not only putting on the dress and the lipstick and the earrings and all of that. He went above and beyond to be super, super feminine. Again, if you're a gay man or you're a cross-dresser and that's what you do and you don't believe in God, then so be it, live your life. I hope that you find Jesus Christ at some point in your journey. But if you don't stand for that and you decide to compromise your morals, like we talked about in the Selling Your Soul video, then you 100% sold your soul. And the fact that you came on the Oprah show and you weren't honest, because this was early in Chappelle's career. As you can see, he was super young. Dave Chappelle wore a dress. So what is he talking about here? But it gets even worse, because when you take a step forward in his career, Dave Chappelle earringly signed a $50 million or something along that, I believe it was a $50-60 million deal, something around the same amount with Netflix, which is literally Hollywood. So you mean to tell me you left a $50 million deal on the table, you left Hollywood, at some point went to Africa, you come back and speak to, if all people, Oprah, give this disingenuous story about wearing a dress, even though you wore a dress twice already in your career. You never tell us that in that interview, but we got to go scrape the internet to be able to find it. Then you come back and work for the same people, because Netflix is Hollywood. Make no freaking mistake. You come back and work for the same people and sign the same deal. What did you have to do this time to get the deal, bro? It just doesn't make sense. And one of the biggest things that really grinded my gears when it came to this story is that, as we all know, Cat Williams went viral last year on the Shannon Sharp show. And one of the things that stood out about the interview was that Cat Williams had nothing but positive things to say about Dave Chappelle, including, no, you don't understand half of what this man had to do. It wasn't just that he left for $50 million on the deal. Dude, he didn't turn down the $50 million deal for that reason. It had nothing to do with wearing a dress. And somebody that used to work with Dave Chappelle confirmed it. There's a guy by the name of David Bradley, or D. Brad, who served as a producer and a show creator on BET. He worked on shows like Rap City The Basement. If y'all remember that show, I definitely do growing up. It even says that he even maybe worked as an intern or something at 106 in Park. And he definitely worked on Spring Bling. And most notably, David Bradley worked on The Chappelle Show as a rehearsal stand-in for Dave Chappelle. And he also served as a set production assistant. And he's talked about his experiences many times across the internet. Well, he just recently sent me a video of him talking about what he experienced on the Chappelle show and why he believes Dave Chappelle actually left. And he doesn't believe that it has anything to do with the quote-unquote Illuminati.
So I remember another occasion when probably one of the first times I ever had a real conversation with Dave Chappelle. It was around the executives again. And on this particular day, David was really frustrated because he felt that everyone on the set was laughing at everything that he did. So he couldn't really find a gauge for what was really truly funny, or was everyone just laughing. So I'm standing there in my position as David's rehearsal playback. I have the director, Bobcat Goldthwait, next to me, and on the other side is all the Comedy Central and Marlboro production executives. So they see Dave coming by, and then the mumbling starts. Oh God, here he comes again. I said, he's always whining. He's making so much money. He's never. Hey Dave, what's going on? So Dave walks up and he's like, I'm a little frustrated. I can't really tell what's funny or what's hitting the mark because everyone's laughing at everything that I do. And I think that it's impossible to think that everything that I do is funny because it can't possibly be funny. So the executives look at Dave and they shake their heads. David, we're laughing because you are funny. Yeah, Dave, you're funny and you're making a lot of cash, Dave. Yeah, Dave, so why don't you just take what you're doing and be happy about it? Like, look at you. You seem so miserable and unhappy. And Dave jumps back in. He's like, it's kind of hard to think about money while I'm trying to do comedy. It just don't mix. And I'm having a heck of a time figuring it out. And then the executives again, Dave, listen, Dave, here's what the bottom line is. We're making a lot of money, whether you like it or not. The show's making money. We're making money. Everybody's happy except for you, Dave. So why don't you just go back on the set, Dave? Because we laugh because you're funny. And then I remember Nancy Marlboro jumped in. And then she just basically told Dave, time is money, Dave. And Dave walked away frustrated with his head kind of down. And then all the executives went away mumbling about him. So then I reached over and I said, hey, man, hey, Dave. And he was like, yeah, what's up? And I said, listen, man, you don't know me at all. I don't know you, but I can help you out, I think. I have something that can help you. He was like, go on. I said, I'm a hater by nature. It's easy for me not to look at something and laugh. It's easy for me to hate. So how about this? You perform and you look back in my direction. Since I'm in between the director, you can see me right there. And if I'm laughing, it was funny. But if I'm like this, it was that hit. And Dave thought about it for a second. He was like, well, it's not a bad idea. What's your name again? And I was like, Dave. He was like, Dave. Well, I'm Dave. Pleasure to meet you, Dave. And I said, pleasure to meet you too, Dave, because I'm Dave. And then Dave Chappelle looked at me and said, well, we got nothing else to lose. We might as well try it. So come on, let's go. And I said, all right, man, you're right. We don't have nothing to lose. And lo and behold, for the rest of the season, which was probably the last 7-8 shows we filmed, Dave Chappelle would perform on his set and then glance at me to see what my response was. But being on that show, there was never a conspiracy theory. I don't think there was back rooms that were needed. What I witnessed firsthand was Dave Chappelle was being spoken to like he was less than. He could not take the pressure. And I know for a fact that if he had Charlie Murphy around him way sooner than he did, Charlie wouldn't have played none of that. The way they talked to Eddie, the way they talked to Dave, even in front of me, there were times the executive would actually look at me and go, what's wrong with him? And Charlie wouldn't have played that. They would have spoken to him like that in front of Charlie. Charlie would have simply said, man, what the fuck you just say, man? You need to watch your fucking mouth, man. If I slap the taste out your mouth, man, and then make you pick it back up, put the taste back in your mouth, nigga, and I'm gonna slap it the fuck back out your mouth again, man. Better watch who the fuck you talking to. That's what Charlie would have said. But Dave took it, and his wife was going through a lot with the pregnancy. There was a lot going on in his life that led to a lot of pressure that was on him. And unfortunately, he made the move and had to bounce. But it wasn't because of no Illuminati theory or conspiracy. It was straight up, those executives made him feel like he was losing his mind. They picked on him. They messed with him. It was messed up for Donnell Rollins because that was his little ship that he was riding to try to get to the next level. Very talented dude. I'm rich, bitch. He came up with that phrase. A lot of stuff you all saw came up on the fly. But the bottom line is, from my perspective, being in between the director, Bobcat Goldthwait, and the Comedy Central execs and the Marlboro production execs, they harassed the hell out of Dave when that show started making money, and Dave just couldn't handle it. They basically punked him off his own block. Just that simple. Chappelle Show. My take. I was standing right there. But nothing I tell you is true. But it's exactly what happened.
For one of the rarest times on this channel, I agree that it had nothing to do with that. I think Dave Chappelle left for different reasons. I 100% do, because if you left Hollywood, why come back to Hollywood? If you left because of the dress, why not tell us that you already wore a dress 2 times? And a lot of people can question, does this guy David Bradley check out? You can look him up. He checked out. I did my research. This is a real person that really did work on these platforms. And he's told many other different stories, like how he quote unquote survived a Diddy yacht party. And he shared many other stories on his channel about other celebrities that he's worked with and the role that he played in their career, weird things that he's experienced, celebrities like Eve, and the list goes on. I believe that Dave Chappelle is controlled opposition, bro. Because if you really about exposing things, bro, really expose it. Really stand on it. Don't just give us half the truth. Don't just lead us halfway to the water, bro. Let us know if the water has poison in it. Let us know if the water's been infiltrated. But no, you are actually embraced by Hollywood and all the people in Hollywood, finding yourself at the top of the comedian game like nothing ever changed. That's the epitome of controlled opposition, in my opinion. Y'all up in the comment section, give me your thoughts. Of course, I'm Demetrius. I go by Didi. That's all for this one. Peace.
Oh yeah, Didi got a podcast.